back for another Gab with Abigail. If you aren't back and this is your first time on my channel, hi, welcome to Gabs with Abigail, where we talk about the Bates and Duggars and other D-list fundies. For today's video, we're talking about transphobia. Let's talk about it. So, January 8th, Benjamin Seewald, who is Jessa Duggar Seewald's husband, decided to get back on the internet because he wanted to share something with us. And what he wanted to share was farm talk, because it has deep truths. And now, anytime a conservative says that something has deep truths, I want you to know that that preface means that you're about to read the either stupidest or most bigoted take you could possibly imagine. No, I mean, you know what? In the context of this, it could definitely be worse. It could definitely, it's soft bigotry, if you will. But what this is a rap song. Apparently, I didn't listen to the song. I just went and looked up the lyrics because actually I didn't know it was a song. I was just like, okay, you have kids farm talk. It must be, maybe it's a child story. But it was suspicious to me because, again, anytime a conservative says something has deep truth, like 9 out of 10, it is about to be the worst take you've ever heard. And this did not disappoint. Okay? So basically what it is, it's a rap song. And in the lyrics, it's like a conversation between a pig, a horse, I think a chicken, and a frog. And they're having some kind of, group discussion. Okay? So in the story, the animals are anthropomorphized. The hog first starts and says, you know what? I feel like the pig is like, I don't think I'm a hog. I think I'm a dog. And from right there, I was like, oh, I'm just going to stop reading. I did go through and read the whole thing. But I was just like, you came onto the internet to tell us something transphobic. It is the year of our Lord 2024. I wish conservatives would just shut the fuck up about this trans shit. Shut up. Shut up. Shut up. Shut up. Shut up. Shut up. There are kids dying in Gaza. There is a famine and conflict occurring in Somalia. The Congo is being mined and going through all of this crazy destructive shit for the stuff that you have in the phone that you typed this transphobic ass crap on. I just don't understand as a Christian how you don't have time to address any of that other shit, but you had the time as a pastor to come on and talk to us about deep truth. This isn't even that big of a problem in our world and in the greater American community, but you had the time to talk about this. Poverty, hunger, homelessness is a bigger problem, is a more prominent problem in our country that is affecting more people. That's the kind of shit that you should be listening to music about and playing for your kids and coming onto the internet and telling a deep truth. Give us a solution for that stuff. Show us how you're working towards change for that. What's God doing in that lane? How are our politicians confused about getting that stuff resolved? And I think what's so irritating, like I'm so tired of Christians talking to us. I think that, like, I really am. Like, the worst thing that could have been given to white Christians was to come and evangelize to people, was to come and talk to people, was like I just, at what point, I just wish we could ask you guys to be quiet and not speak to us ever. Okay? And not because there aren't any good opinions or good worldviews or kindness or wonderful things that come out of the Christian church. It's because the egregious shit is so egregious that it's actually now is the time to maybe be quiet. Maybe now is the time to be quiet. I've said this before in the past. I really want us to let go of metaphors, because metaphors allow, like, I don't want to say let them go obviously permanently, but I just feel like there is power behind words, which you would think that a pastor, that a Christian would know since they read the Bible. And therefore, you should not be using metaphors and analogies and creating your own parables, because it dehumanizes like the human experience. And that also you're taking away from the fact like when you are using animals as an example, the fact that the human experience is so unique that is why we have this thing called transphobia, right? The human brain is so complicated that's why. And that also, I don't even want to say that that's why. We have no idea. Again, this is also the arrogance of man. I feel this way all the time, that we have no idea what animals are thinking and what they go through. We don't. We arrogantly assume things because we can dominate them, because we can take a gun and shoot them, because we can crowd them in and slaughter them. We arrogantly assume we know what's going on. The fact that this used a frog in the story, when isn't there like evidence that frogs will change sexes if there's too many like females or males in the water? So what is this story really about? I don't understand why there is the need for all of this conversation. Move on to something else. Of all of the things that are going on in this world, that was what you needed to come onto the internet and post about, as a song about fucking farm animals saying that they want to be dogs and a hen wants to not be a hen anymore. And it's a deep truth. And why it was like a deep truth is because the frog is saying like, oh, I think all of you guys are wrong about that and you're confused. And they like act like the frog is a bigot. So you see yourself in the frog? Okay. The thing is like, you don't have to be like considered a bigot because you could absolutely mind your fucking business. That's the thing. That is what gets me. You could mind your business. You could be quiet. I think that's what also irritates me again about like why we should not be asking Christians to the problem with evangelizing to people. Because why do you care so much about somebody else's supposed sin? Like the pressure and the annoying, it's so like annoying, like arrogant how Christians want to convert everybody. Let those people go to hell. Let them go. Like the fact that we live in America, meaning that there is a 99% chance that somebody has been evangelized to. Somebody has invited them to church. They've seen a church on the corner. They've seen some kind of sign. They know John 3:16 probably. For God's sake, they know, God is love. They know everybody has a little bit of tidbit in a way that Christianity has touched their lives. And they've decided that they still want to go to hell. Let them go. If they want to change, if they decide they want to live a different lifestyle, let your example of love and kindness be what changes their heart. But comparing them to hogs wanting to be dogs and hens wanting to be roosters, I just don't think is the way to go about it. And using that language to call yourself a frog who is innocently being berated because you're telling those people that they're confused. You could just mind your business, right? And I understand that a part of this conversation is that like trans people do need support, right? And if you're not going to be one of those people who can support, then just don't support. But you also don't have to actively go out of your way to make their lives more difficult. It's mind-blowing that there are so many more serious problems going on in this country, and this is the shit that you come onto the internet with as a pastor. Is about transphobia. Talk about the kids who are hungry. Talk about how there are American children who have student lunch debt. Is that not a bigger, more serious problem than this? This small little chasm of things. But to act like this is a huge, ginormous reality and a serious, problem and a challenge to the world that matters this much is just insane to me. Is insane to me. The cost of housing is outrageous. But you have time to come on the internet and talk to us about this shit. Healthcare in America isn't free. It's expensive. So even for people to go through all of the treatments and healthcare that people are trying to get legalized, also, where is the money for that? Oh, you're a bigot if you don't support. You're a bigot if you go out of your way to actively fight against it, especially as a Christian when there's other things that you could be doing. Especially as that. That's the point. Okay? And I think and this reminds me, just because I feel like let's just talk a little bit of shit. I'm still waiting been for all of this Christian persecution that you said was going to happen when Trump lost the election and Biden became president? Where is it? But we have to listen to these simple truths. I understand that this feels like a modern and trendy topic because it is, right? But the thing is, it's like, if you're supposed to be so smart and well read, I don't understand how you don't have the media literacy to know that the like Fox and all of that are manipulating you into making this a bigger issue than it is. And it's as if it's a bigger problem that touches more people than it does. Like, I just don't get it. I don't understand it. You know, Bill Gothard was right. You know, that this kind of music, this music with a beat, is in fact the devil's work. Because that's the only thing that can make sense. Like, this is just egregious. Come and talk to us about a real world problem, please. Please. 70,000 Palestinians are dead. I really want us to leave using metaphors and analogies of comparing people to inanimate things because we don't realize how much it's dehumanizing, like what is an actual real feeling person. It's so easy to say, oh, a hog wanting to be a dog. How ridiculous. As if people, one, don't keep like little pigs in their house and stuff like that. But like how easy that is to say. And then to then apply that to a person who has deep, complicated human feelings and emotions and traumas and memories and all of these things. Like that we act like the transgendered experience is so black and white is annoying on no matter what end of the spectrum that you belong to. These are conversations that do in fact require an education. And so somebody who's reading a simple truth out of a fucking song probably isn't reading medical journals, probably isn't seeking out opinions from real parents who are experiencing this, right? Or from people who have worked like within that community, or from like adults who have been in that community, or reading into the history of this. Like none of that. Like I hate that the Bible is able to use to be justified, is used to justify black and white thinking. And why I hate that is because the Bible is this deep and complicated book. Why else would you all be going to these theology schools and studying at seminaries and having to preach and deliver the word to people to help them interpret it? But somehow it does translate into these very black and white, rigid rules about the society that we live in and how we should live and how the humans are. Even just the fact that, and I understand that this is a part of this kind of type of evangelicalism, like believing the Bible is literally true in everything, despite the fact that it was written at a time that is so different from now. What we know now is so different from then. Like your wife isn't outside every time she has her period living in a tent. And yet, it's okay to villainize trans people because that same part of the Bible, the Old Testament, says that a woman shouldn't wear that which pertaineth to a man and vice versa. Makes sense. Literally, I just feel like, again, I cannot emphasize enough that the time is now for Christians to actually, for white Christians in particular, to be quiet and listen to others who are not you, whose experience you really cannot relate to in any capacity. You don't know them. You've never lived that life. There is not a modicum of your self that can relate to anything that they have lived through. And so to have the gall to feel like you can supersede that personal story for your own narrative is awful. And in the name of a God that other people don't necessarily believe in. I think that's the other thing that kills me, I guess, to close on a note, is just this idea that people don't believe like you do. And if you want to say like, well, this is outside of religion, that this just makes sense. I mean, I understand that, but like, again, There's so much science and thought and study to this because humans are deeply complicated beings. Do you think that 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago, people understood what depression was? And that for some people, it could be a chemical imbalance, postpartum depression, you know, as something that's really a chemical change, like something is going on with your hormones. And yet, it's just so also ahistorical. Like, it's all of these things. Like, if this were just the simple truth that we were somehow in a modern day getting away from, history would not be littered with all of these transgender and gay people. So I also read this book. And again, just trying to talk about like how this is a complicated issue that requires quite a lot of reading and research and is still developing. But I was reading a book about eating disorders. And in particular, it was one lady sharing about her story with anorexia. And she was talking about how, like, as an anorexic, part of it, especially for her, and she knows for other people, they go through this as well, that like part of the not eating is trying to avoid having to go through puberty and the maturation of your body and keeping it childlike. And that there are some theories and studies that that's also why we're seeing a surge in transgender, like, transgender boys, I would say. So girls who want to become boys, is also kind of a part of like that mind warp and like that kind of like mind fuck of how the world perceives women, how the world treats women, and therefore not wanting to become one, like not wanting to enter that stage of maturation. And if that is a theory, like let's say that is true for some girls, why isn't that something then that the church is trying to address? It can't, because of these rigid standards for what femininity is and being a homemaker and a wife and having babies and all of these things. And it's like we can't ever even look at those things as mattering or as like a problem that we need to address, and that we need to look at this maybe on a bigger scale versus just hoping. I feel like this is a great opportunity, Ben, to never get on the internet again. Like in general, it felt like his page was being run by Jessa. So when he came on to post about this, I was like, this is going to be interesting. And boy, was it. All right, that's it for me. That's my little talk. See you for the next one. Let's go. It's like you niggas gotta stop acting weird. You niggas gotta stop acting weird.